Welcome to episode 33, Style of Play Football. Myself, Theo. We've got a new co-host joining. Do you want to introduce yourself? Let them know who you are.
Yeah, cheers everyone. My name's Basil. Been flipping in between a full-time and part-time Arsenal fan. During the past, I was trying to save myself from the heartbreak that Arsenal give, but right back in full steam as a full-time Arsenal fan. But yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, and yeah, glad to be part of the team.
Yeah, it's good to have you, man. And for anyone that doesn't know, obviously what we're trying to do this season is up the levels. So, we're going to be doing mini episodes each club for the next couple of weeks, discussing transfer targets and expectations for their clubs going forward. So if Arsenal isn't your team, then look out for the other episodes. There will be other episodes where we'll be talking about hopefully your club if they're in the Premier League as well. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the videos as well, share your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, we're doing this as a live stream as well. So if you're interacting live, make sure you throw some comments in as we're discussing. But let's try and just talk about last season very quickly. As an Arsenal fan, I know it's been a challenging couple of years, and I feel with Arsenal, they always get so close, but they're still so far. Is that kind of a fair assessment as a strapline for Arsenal season, the last couple of seasons?
It's a fair assessment, but I think we need to sometimes take a step back. I think sometimes because of people deem Arsenal as a big club, sometimes people want success immediately. And for me, I've always said because of how bad and uncompetitive we were for so long, the first thing you want to do is kind of build competitiveness. So for me, it wasn't necessarily Arsenal win something. If they'd won something, great. It was, can you actually be in a round where you can be competitive? Because you can win something in one season and kind of fall off, as you see with other teams like Leicester won a league title. And look at them, they've only just been promoted. They got relegated and been promoted. So you need to kind of build a foundation to actually be able to win things. Same as Liverpool won one league title in like 30 years. And since they've won it, it's been City since then. And that's what I mean. You can win something, but can you actually build something to sustain? So the first one I always said with Arsenal was first be competitive. Can you be competitive for at least 2-3 seasons? Because you can build on that. The guys learn, they become more experienced. And then obviously there's things that they know what to do as the season goes on. Now, last season was definitely a big improvement on the previous season. I think the previous season was an opportunity lost, and I do count that as a bit of a choke from Arsenal because of the teams that they kind of drop points against. If you drop points against big teams during the run-in, you kind of hold your hands up and say, unlucky. But when you drop points, when you're 2-0 up against Liverpool and you throw it away, when you draw against West Ham, when you lose against Southampton, when you lose against Brighton in a run-in, that's quite disappointing. You're not losing against cities. You're not losing against the Chelseas. It's against teams you should be expected to pick up points against. This season was a bit different in terms of Arsenal there, and obviously it was just a stumble against Villa, which kind of cost them the league title. People talk about other matches like West Ham and Fulham, but even if Arsenal win those games, there's no guarantee they go on the run that they go on. You have to look at what was the last stumbling block, and the last stumbling block was Aston Villa. But at the same time, it's unlucky as a formidable City team to kind of go against, who are just winning game after game, which we all saw coming. And so it was hard to kind of have perfection in the last 9 to 10 games for Arsenal.
I do think with Arsenal, not that. Because I do deem Arsenal as a big club. I think they are a massive club. They have the history that sits behind them.
Yeah.
I just think, and I've said this for 2 seasons now, I feel like this season, especially Arteta, will probably be, I think the magnifying glass is on them a bit more now. Because you don't agree with that?
No. Funny enough, I do agree. It's an interesting one because you kind of have to have the mindset of like the board and and the mindset of everyone else. I think for everyone else outside of Arsenal, in terms of like the boards and Edu, technical director, the magnifying glass is definitely on Arteta.
Yeah.
If Arteta doesn't win anything, I think he goes nowhere. I think in the eyes of the board, he's their main man for the next 3, 4, 5 years, regardless of whether he wins something, which for me isn't right personally, because then you have to ask yourself, well, what are you trying to achieve?
What's the ambitions?
Money, exactly. That's the thing. So for me, there is a magnifying glass because ultimately he's heading into, this would be his 6th season.
His 6th season.
Yeah, it'll be 6 seasons because he's had half a season and four
He
seasons.
did.
Because his
Yeah.
first season he finished, I think he finished fifth. Was it fifth? No, first season finished eighth. Obviously, came in
Mm,
halfway into the season. Second season eighth again, then fifth, and then obviously
mm,
two second place finishes. So technically, he's heading into his sixth season. So at this point, you don't have to say, well, if he doesn't win anything this season, what is he building? Ultimately, you could
mm,
say he's potentially a nearly guy because obviously, 3 seasons ago couldn't finish fourth. You know,
mm.
kind of blew away in the final part of the season. 2 seasons running, he's finished second, and in the key moments where ultimately ultimately it comes down to tactical and
Mm.
also in-game management wasn't there in the key moments. So you kind of say, well, is it a right man to lead Arsenal to a trophy? So if
Yeah, yeah.
I think the spotlight's definitely on him this season, definitely.
I think injuries have played a big part as well. I think we have to talk about obviously losing Justin Timbers, which is a big loss. I know
Mm,
he's back now. He's I think he's in the preseason squad, isn't he? But injuries have played a big factor for Arsenal, and I think you do have to put those things into consideration when we talk about it. I do slightly agree with you that I don't think from a fan's perspective that concerned by Arteta. They probably, because you got to remember where Arsenal were under Arsene Wenger, and then that sort of weird period as well, a bit under Unai Emery,
yeah,
and then Arteta comes in and he has progressed the club. Like he has done that, but I just think when you're so close to winning, because some fans like non Arsenal fans will say that Arsenal weren't in a title race. Do you know what I mean? They do say that. That is the talk of the towns here. But I think if you're in second place, and let's be honest, I think it was last season. Sorry, season before last. I think Arsenal did theoretically bottle the league.
yeah, they did.
I don't, and that's not like in a horrible way to Arsenal fans. I just think that's so far clear that,
Yeah,
and even last season as well. The ball was in your court so much to then
yeah.
sort of throw it away. I do wonder: is it a tactical thing? Is it the pressure of being in that sort of position for Arteta that he struggles with? And I don't know. Has he changed things tactically throughout the season? The back end of the season, has he changed certain things? I'm not sure.
He hasn't. I mean, what it is that he just had a fit squad, so he could kind of implement what he wants. He has one style of play and can't pivot, and that's his bigger issue. So, for instance, look at the Villa game. If it isn't flowing, he does know how to change things tactically. And for me, that's always been my biggest criticism of Arteta. He has a style of play. He sets the team out to play. When things aren't working, he just doesn't know what to do. Like there's no tactical change. There's no okay. You kind of play a bit differently. You kind of position yourself like this, guys. Set up in this way. There isn't a second style of play for Arteta or a different way to kind of approach games when things aren't going his way. My biggest criticism of Arteta is his squad utilization. It's absolutely diabolical. He has the same 12 or 13 he's going to use, same starting 11, kind of, it reads itself. The same two substitutions are going to come on. Gabriel Jesus isn't starting, he's coming off. If Trossard isn't starting, he's coming on.
It's
Then
coming
the
on.
rest of the
Yeah, yeah.
squad, he doesn't trust the squad. And that's been my biggest issue for him in terms of you've kept some of these players within the squad and refused to use them. So Eddie Nketiah, you guys offered him a new contract, barely uses him when required. Reece Nelson offered him a new contract, barely kept him. They gave Oneni a contract extension. Obviously, he's expired now and he's left. Barely used the guy. Obviously, there was a period he was injured. But it's like when you look at how he utilizes the squad, he just doesn't utilize the squad at all. And that's the big criticism. Secondly, he's too slow to adapt. So look at certain managers. If it isn't working by 55, 60 minutes, they're not scared to kind of throw on players and say, hey, it's not working. Let's go change the game early. He waits until maybe the 78th, 80th minute, similar to what Arsene Wenger used to do. Waits too late to make a substitute. And I'm like, it's too late. It's too late by then.
The game's done.
The game's done. The game's done. So, so you do have to look at it and say, well, in the key moments, tactically he's been found wanting. So you look at the games like the buying games, both buying games in the Champions League, didn't adapt well. The Villa game, the key one, just didn't adapt well in that game. So there are things he needs to look at himself and needs to work on as a manager because I don't think he can approach the next season in the same manner because I always say teams figure you out. You have a style of play, they know how you play. If you're not willing to adapt and tweak things, they know how to settle against you.
And that's not just Arteta as well. That's a lot of managers.
A
And
lot of
I,
managers, yeah.
I'm thinking back to Graham Potter from a Chelsea perspective. Graham Potter,
Yeah,
Pochettino. You know, it's almost like even watching the Euros. You know, watching certain
yeah,
countries in the Euros. Gareth Southgate being a primary one where he wouldn't change things unless a goal goes in, and it's
exactly.
1-0. You're 1-0 down, and then you start panicking. I think that is a downfall for Arteta because at this point now, especially critical parts of the game or critical parts in the season, you have to be bold and you have to make those right choices at the right time, even if that's at half time or before half time. I remember certain managers before they've hooked players at like 35 minutes. Thomas Tuchel used to do it for Chelsea. I remember he done it to Callum Hudson-Odoi once.
Yeah, you have to.
You've got
I'm
to do it.
wondering, and even to add to that, sometimes you have to just take off like who you deem your best players.
The
And it
star
annoys
player.
me that star player, it annoys me that sometimes Saka is so bad on that pitch, he refuses to take him off. And I've seen bolder managers take off their best players and say, "Hey, this isn't working." Even Klopp, you saw at the end, wasn't afraid to
Salah.
take off Salah and
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
"This isn't working. Take him off. Let's get someone else who can kind of give us a new lease of life." Even sometimes Martinelli will be playing so bad for so long and he doesn't hook him off, or sometimes it's too late hooking him off. Sometimes Havertz is ineffective, and you're like, listen, make the early change, try and change the rhythm a bit within the game. And so there is also a level of stubbornness, and I don't know why with Arteta, which he needs to learn very quickly. As we said, he's entering his sixth season as a manager, only won one FA Cup, but has bottled many opportunities to win things. And obviously, I don't think his job will be in danger because I think the Arsenal board, I say this, I don't think the Arsenal board is a board of ambition. I think they're a board of stability more than anything. Keep the revenue going, be competitive,
Keep it safe.
keep it safe. That's what I see. But I think in the eyes of everyone else, pundits, fans of other clubs, even a few Arsenal, I think even a few Arsenal fans, I think if he doesn't win anything this season, they'll start looking at him thinking, is he the right man?
Yeah,
Can he get Arsenal over the line?
yeah. And it's a genuine question because I think, like, without looking at the incoming and outgoings over the last couple of seasons, I do feel like Arsenal have spent enough money. And I get your point about the lack of squad depth because I don't think that's there at Arsenal. And I think
That's what, no.
there's a good 11. There's a good 11 players that can clearly compete to try and win the league. They've done that back to back seasons now. So there's a good level. I still think there's a couple positions which we'll talk about in a minute that are, for me, are still key missing pieces to the puzzle. But I personally do think Arteta will be under a lot of scrutiny this season if he doesn't. Look, I mean, there's other clubs are strengthening now. You look at West Ham, you look at Aston Villa, you look at Manchester United. Liverpool are going to do their little sneaky business like they always do every season. So you know that they're going to go and sign someone. Tottenham might throw in a little something. So I worry about Arsenal in that aspect because if they don't get it right in terms of, and the new signing now, I think he can play centre back and he can play left back as well,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think there's still gaps in there for me in terms of that squad, and it's going to be difficult, I think, for Arteta to be able to play with such a shrinkage, a small team.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, yeah,
Injuries as
I've said
well.
exactly what you said for many years. Sometimes you need to strike when opportunity is there, right? And I've always said this: like the issue you have is that there's too many quality teams in the league, and they all have bad seasons. But everyone's is going to strengthen. Everyone's going to look to improve. So sometimes you look at the last look at the two seasons before. It was just Arsenal and City. You rarely get a season where every other team from Liverpool to Chelsea to United Tottenham are that bad. That it's just a two horse race.
Yeah.
Last season it was Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. Once again, you had an inconsistent United, an inconsistent Chelsea were very bad, very bad United, very bad, an inconsistent Tottenham. Villa were there, and so obviously you haven't capitalized this season. Once again, teams are going to strengthen. They realize, okay, we can't allow ourselves to have another bad season. So what happens when you're then competing against maybe 4 or 5 teams? Every point counts because you can go maybe on a run of 2 losses, and that could be a swing from being first to fourth. There was a point where Tottenham were top, and then obviously slid all the way down to like fourth within a matter of a few games. And that's the reason why you kind of need to strike when there's opportunity rather than waiting or other clubs rather than thinking, oh, we've done well, we can continue again, and then realizing, oh, every other team has caught up to you, and you're kind of sliding while they're on the rise.
No, it's true, and that is gonna happen this season. I think there'll be. I'm not gonna put Chelsea in that equation yet. I need to see what happens for the next couple of weeks, but I do think Liverpool are going to be there or thereabouts. Arne Slot coming in, obviously Klopp's leaving. Arne Slot, that's going to be a big test for him. But I do think clubs will be ready to pounce on that league this season. Obviously, City is still going to be favourites as they are every season, but I think as we've seen many seasons before, City have a slow start to the season. They get to that Christmas period and they just start hitting just W's. They don't talk about L's; they're just hitting W's. But Kojo,
Yo,
detention. What's going on?
my laptop just, man.
For the audio listeners, Kojo's just joined us, but we're just talking last season, Arteta, Arsenal. Obviously, there's a lot of expectation, I think, from how Arsenal have performed over the last 2 seasons, and is there an expectation now that if Arteta doesn't do something substantial in terms of, i.e., win the Premier League, or I don't want to say that a domestic cup, because that's an achievement that even flipping Wrexham can do. Do you know what I mean? No disrespect to them, but something substantial for Arsenal. Would that be deemed as a failure for Arteta?
If he doesn't win anything, so you're talking about Premier League or Champions League, basically.
I'm talking the big stuff. Yeah, it's got to be big sign. It's got to be big.
I would have to say it's a failure. Look, a lot of people hear that and be like, yeah, but it's City. Look, I think I've said this to you before, and I think I've said it to Basil before. When teams go for the title, I hate this idea that they look at one team and say, oh my God, if we can't get part. That's the whole challenge. That's the point. When Man United won 3 years in a row, Arsenal 2002 didn't say, man, these guys again. They went for the title when they won it. You know what I mean? Yeah. When Chelsea won it 2 years in a row with Mourinho, Man United didn't sit there and say, man, they got 95 points and conceded 15 goals. We can't get past this team. This is the point. This is the challenge. So City have won it 4 times. Unfortunately for you, they're there. So you have to challenge. And you as a club have finished second twice. The first time kind of faltered off, let's say 6-7 games before the end of the season. Okay, no problem. This one, you ran them a lot closer, but there are 1 or 2 results where you can look and say, you should have got the results that could have got you the title. Next year, the expectation is you got to win the title. I mean, that's what it is. Champions League, I'm a bit 50-50 about, because Champions League is sometimes you don't have to be the best team within the 2 legs to win the game. So it could be a bit of a difficult one. But the Premier League, I think in 38 games, you are still improving your team. You signed a setup, you signed a defender. I think you're going to sign Mourinho. You probably will go for one more striker knowing that Nketiah's leaving. And that will be an improvement over Havertz, not Alan Nketiah, because, Then, you push for the title. You have to. I think you have to. So the pressure's on.
Not push, though. Not push. I want to see a win. It can't be a push.
I'm saying push. And the reason I say push is because Arsenal, if they were to not win the title, cannot be it. For me, they cannot be more than 2 points behind. They can't.
No, I think, Coach, I think they have to win, man.
Go for it.
The reason why I'm saying is, like, look at the last 2 seasons, right? I think the 2 seasons ago, I think they were like maybe 3 points in the end behind City. It wasn't that many points. Last season, what was it? It was 2 points, if I remember last season. It was like run them close 2 seasons in a row. Like, can you run them close again for 3rd season? At some point, running them close has to lead to something. So that's why I'm with Theo in terms of, I think they now have to go and win it.
No, I agree.
I think there'll be more scrutiny if they run them close again, because then people will question, well, it shows that he's missing something.
So if he doesn't win it, is that a sackable offence?
I asked that before. I gave a diplomatic answer.
It's a question mark, because I was speaking to a friend about it, and I was so on the fence, because technically I could say yes, it is, because the reason I say it is because that's his 6th season as a manager. Okay. Obviously, bearing in mind one of those seasons was half a season, but then you have to say, well, it's his 6th season as a manager. You've had more than enough time, more time than any manager, not even any manager, to kind of build a team to win at least a league title. And so if you haven't, then you have to say, well, what's he there for? To be honest, because clearly it shows that he's just a nearly man. But then on the flip side, you could say, well, at least he's getting there. He's edging them close. He's made them competitive. He's stabilized things where they're competitive. And you think, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
I think I think it's like this. If you guys, I'm gonna put the scenario forward. If Arsenal don't win the league, and at the final day, I hear Arteta say anything giving a silly amount of credit to City, say, you know, it's them again, they're unbelievable, blah blah. Then for me, you gotta let them go, because that's not the mentality. When you guys, the first time, like 2 seasons ago, when you finished behind them,
yeah,
and I heard an interview, I think it was Gabriel Jesus, that said, "Oh yeah, we're winning games, and we'll get into the dressing room. We kept checking that car, they kept on winning." My guys, stop worrying about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop worrying about
them,
because,
especially when it's in your hands.
Exactly, because the day that you drop points, they ain't gonna be looking at saying, "Oh, the Arsenal drop points." They go and handle their business. They know they need to win. So as long as if they win all their games and you drop points, the facts are that they've gained more points than you. So stop looking at them, stop worrying about them, and do your job. You do your job, you should be fine. So that's where I'd say sack him. But I do hear you guys, and I think it's fair to say that the expectation should be to win the league. Maybe I was just looking at it from the Arsenal aspect of looking at how the staff have such a relationship with him that they'll be like, oh, you know, we know what we're up against, kind of thing. But at the end of the day, my guys, you're in here to win the title, or you're just in there to take part in it. Really, and truly.
Coach, I was saying to you earlier, the issue, like there's two kind of opinions. There's the board opinion, and then there's everyone else. Everyone else will say, and I think including some Arsenal fans, potentially may need to go. The board are a board of no ambition. We've seen it from the moment Kroenke took over, and everyone they're happy with this. They'll happily keep this guy there for another 10 years. To be honest, they're not pushing. They're not pushing. Yeah, honestly, they would. The reason why I'm saying is because there's a big difference between Arsenal and the other clubs, and clubs like Manchester United, clubs like City, and clubs like Chelsea, and I add those three. Liverpool, I'm not sure that they're in that category. And what I mean is that their category is to dominate. That's their mentality. Their mentality isn't to win; it's to dominate. And so you kind of see how obviously United's kind of a mess in terms of structure, but I always say there is the ambition. And you can see it through how much money they actually spend in transfer. There is the ambition to get them back to where they are, because they understand we're a big club. Where we are isn't representative of who we are. Whereas teams like Arsenal, for me, the mentality isn't to dominate. Their mentality is to do the bare minimum and achieve the bare minimum. And you can also see it from their transfer window policies of how they behave. 2 seasons ago, they finished second. They signed Jurriën Timber and Rice. Those are the only, and obviously and then they bought another goalkeeper, which made 0 sense to me. But then you look at it, that those are the only noted, and Havertz, which made 0 sense to me. But you look at how they acted in the transfer. It wasn't a team that for me was serious. Same as now, for instance. They finished second again. They've only made one notable signing, and we're in August. This isn't a proper team that wants to dominate.
Who do you put that down to? Because I want to get onto Edu very quickly. Because obviously, when I talk to Arsenal fans, there's always a mixed opinion about how good or bad Edu has been for Arsenal.
Edu's the worst technical director I've ever witnessed in my life. Honestly, like people forget this stuff. Why? You ask me why. People forget. What people do is they're blinded by the fact that Arsenal signed Declan Rice. If you look at Edu's performance as a whole, it's been shocking. 95%, I say 90% of the signings he's made or the decisions made have been a failure. This is the same guy that signed Nuno Tavares, surplus to requirements. Lokonga, surplus to requirements.
Yeah, they're gone now.
He signed, we bought Cedric on loan. Then he gave him a 4-year contract, only for him to stay there, be of no use and run it out. Same, they bought in Pablo Mari on loan. Didn't work out, ended up selling him. Brought in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, but my biggest issue is the price he paid for those guys. Because we spent 55 million on Jesus, who barely scores any goals. Zinchenko, 35 million we spent on him. And look how inept he is. And these were things that we already saw at City. So it wasn't as if like what we're seeing from him was new information.
Yeah, we knew we was there.
It was it. Havertz. They bought Havertz without ideas what they wanted to do with him. Havertz only fortunately made himself up front. They bought him as a Xhaka replacement.
Yeah,
that for me is just bad planning from Edu. Same Kiev. We signed him. We're looking to get rid of him. To be honest, we're looking
Are
to
you?
get Lookiev for.
It's like a part. I'm sure it's a part deal for someone else. I read.
Yeah, and initially we wanted him part of the deal with Caliafori.
That was it.
So
Yeah,
like I said, think like that. He signs Ramsdale. After a while, then signs Raya. What like all you have to do is look at everything. Once again, it's other two other things. Gave Nketiah a contract worth 100k. I don't even know why we even offered him that when he wasn't a key player in our team.
Hasn't he got the 14 shirt as well? Doesn't he wear number 14?
Gave him 14. Reece Nelson, another one. Should have been surplus to requirements. But you see what I'm saying, Kojo? Like when you reel everything down as to how he's operated as the technical director, he's been diabolical. He's been diabolical. The only thing that's saving him is that Arsenal have been competitive because of Arteta, and then they praise him for Rice. But that's one signing out of how many? But don't forget like how we messed up the Mudryk deal, and then had to end up getting Trossard. Don't forget when we tried to sign Douglas Luiz on the final day of the transfer deadline. Ridiculous.
Rafinha as well.
Rafinha too, when he had zero intention to come to the club. Don't forget when we tried to buy Moses Salcedo, knowing how much Brighton wanted for him. It's like his track record is shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
No, I hear a lot of that from Arsenal fans. I do, and even his new deal now for Ricardo Calafiori as well, of 42 million. I think it's going to be a good sign, and I feel that's a signing that we can praise Edu maybe for. I don't want to give him too much praise.
Yeah, it's part of the 5%. Part of the 5%.
But there's an issue. There's an issue I have with this signing that, and it's not to do so much with the player. Because I think he is a good player, but you're signing another natural centre back to play left back. Can pay. Look for a left back.
But there's not many decent ones. Is there any? I mean, I'm scratching my head already, thinking there's not many decent left backs out there now.
I understand that, but that's not our jobs here.
I would say that too, Phil. When people tell me like what players you bring, I'm like, that's why you hire scouts.
You're right.
It's their job to unearth.
They should be finding people. Should be saying, "Oh, we need a left back." Zinchenko hasn't worked out.
Listen, I'm not defending Arsenal at all.
I know you're not. But it's something that we need to address because you're right. When people ask that question, the fact is, yes, sometimes once in a while we can all be as fans say, "Oh yeah, I think this guy is good. I think this guy is good." Yeah. But if they identify a player that they think will work better, then they should do it. Now, I think Calafiori is a good signing, but he's not going to be your main centre back because you've got the pairing that works. So now you're going to shift him to left back. So he's another centre back that's going to play left back. Now he can play left back, not like Kivior, who was taught to just go there. But this is an issue that Arsenal have had for a while. You loaned that Tierney, fine, injury issues, whatever, but you've loaned him out. Zinchenko's not a proper left back because he was a centre midfielder first, then a cam.
I don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll play much next season. I think you've got Tomiyasu. I know he's injured as well. Tomiyasu is injured.
But Tomiyasu's a right back by trade.
But you can still play left, though, I think, can't you?
He can play there.
Yeah.
Julian Timber can play there, but he's a right back or centre back by trade. Who's the other one that they played there as well? I saw Kivior already. So Tierney's the only one that's, proper left back. Again, injury issues, so I understand. But I think it's bogus. I think it
is. And this is what I say. I've always said this. My biggest issue with Arteta is that he's had his education. This is what I always say: managers go out and have your own learning pathway. What is copying the Pep handbook, and I always hate this. And you see it from him all the time, even tactics, everything from player profiles, how he even utilizes the squad. It's just he's been petrified. He's been petrified. Like even like I said, even signing Caliafori to playing left back is a better thing.
Do you reckon that's trying to bring him in as an inverted? Do you reckon you're going to try and invert him?
Honestly, Ake plays left back. He's a centre back for trade. Guardiola plays left back. He's a centre back by trade. It's everything he's doing.
It's carbon copy.
I couldn't understand why we were signing Caliafori because I'm like, my first thought was that he's not a priority too, and two, he's a centre back, so he's coming to play backup. Then they hear me, he wants to play left back, and I was like, why do we keep signing centre backs to play fullback? Same as Ben White's. He's playing fullback for us, but he's a centre back by trade.
Yeah, but he's done well. I mean, I remember when he sort of shifted to right back. I remember thinking, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And then
it didn't at first. He's kind of like adapted and learned the role as he's going.
Yeah, and he's done it well. And I've been critical of him when he was at centre back, when he was before he signed for Arsenal. But I think you're right with Arteta. That worries me. We're obviously not talking Chelsea today, but that worries me with Maresca coming in at Chelsea now, because I feel that I'm already seeing it already watching the preseason games, that the style of Pep is literally washing off on some of these coaches. But
Cosplay.
listen, it's a worry, man. It is a worry. But just in terms of the squad now, I mean, obviously, there's still, like I said before, I feel there's still gaps. You mentioned Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz had a really good season, I felt, for Arsenal last season. I think he proved
I don't think he was good at all, to be honest.
I knew I was going to say that. As you said the name, I saw your eyes roll.
I do not think it was good. Because the thing, I don't even know if I have time for it. The thing is this, right? We're praising Kai Havertz for doing the basics that any basic striker would do. Working hard. Honestly, when you look at Kai Havertz, he doesn't have anything special. 2, he's afraid to do anything with the ball. Because what people say, oh, his link-up play. But his link-up play is done out of fear. Because he does the one
doesn't want to hold the ball.
He does, exactly.
He doesn't want to keep it.
He doesn't want to keep because he's not confident on the ball. So, and what it hates me, because I'm like, are you people not seeing what I'm seeing? When he does the one touch or the layoff, it's because he does it. And when he does try to do something with the ball, it doesn't come off. He tries to dribble. The ball's taken off him. It's messy. He tries to take a shot. It doesn't work, which is why he doesn't do these things. His role literally is just to get in position and score tap-ins. Even the goal he scored against Liverpool, what was that? That was a tap-in. And people are praising him for doing the bare minimum. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
I'm having PTSD flashback to his time at Chelsea, so I'm praising him because of where he was when he was at Chelsea and how his trajectory has gone from not like that. It's kind of gone kind of a little curve, but
I thought it has gone like that.
Yeah, it's a little curve, but I think I agree with those points as well. I do think you need a striker. I've been saying this for too long. Kojo will know this. I think I said it even last season that the striker issue is critical for Arsenal this season. If you don't get a 25 goal season striker, it goes back to that original point about Arteta, the magnifying glass being on him. Edu, obviously, will have to take some of that sort of blame as well. Scouts, as you mentioned, will have to take some of that blame as well. But there has been talk, I know recently, it's kind of died down, of Ivan Toney. Yeah, listen, I've got a love-hate relationship with the guy, but Ivan Toney seems like probably a fit for Arsenal more so than for Chelsea or for another Premier League club. Your thoughts?
I don't think so at all, to be honest. I think Ivan Toney is another one I don't rate highly. I think what he is good for Brentford, and he looks good for Brentford. And obviously, he's not judged by the same standards as maybe other strikers who play for big clubs. Because Ivan Toney, like I say, can go on a run of games and not scoring and no one pays attention. He can go on a run of scoring and people pay attention, but people won't pay attention to the times he's not scoring or performing because it's for Brentford. When you play for bigger clubs, the telescope is on you every week. You don't perform well for 2-3 games, people are in question. So I don't think Ivan Toney's the type of striker who will fit Arsenal because one, like I said, I always look at strikers and I say, and the first thing I always look at if you want to play for a big club is a few things. One, the type of goals you score. So can you score a variety of goals? And then 2, the quality of your finishes. And I never look at Toney and think, oh, you're scoring quality finishes. I always see it's like tap-ins, scrappy finishes, and a lot of penalties. But I never really look at it and think, oh, that was a top quality finish, which is a difference between, for me, a striker who play for a big club and a striker who can operate at a mid-table club. You look at Isak, you look at some of these finishes and say, oh, he could play for Chelsea, United, Arsenal, or City. Because you look at his overall game and you look at like the type of finishes he scores. You look at Haaland, can give you different types of finishes, can whip it from like the edge of the box, can header, can give you the scrappy goals if you want to, but there's a variety. Even if you look at United, when the likes of Martial and Rashford were firing once upon a time, you look at the variety of quality finishes they offered you, you look, oh, those are the type of finishes which are befitting of a big club. I don't look at Ivan Toney and think he has that in him. And I don't look at it and think that he's going to be a difference maker in Arsenal. I feel like he will just fit in. And when we need someone to kind of to kind of help us in those key moments, I can't
Yeah.
see that coming from Ivan Toney, which is why I don't see. I don't think he's good enough for. I don't think he's good enough for a top 5 or 6 club. And also look at like his performances on the back end of last season. It just wasn't good enough. But no one paid attention to that because he's playing for Brentford.
I find it baffling because obviously, like for me, I was saying, actually, yeah, similar to you. I remember when he came back from the ban and he went for the first like four games. He was firing. Like obviously, he missed the game. He went to get back and show that where he was, and then he went missing. But what's the most alarming thing for me was Thomas Frank benched him for quite a bit at the end of the season. Yeah,
and you know why? Because and another issue you have with Tony is his lack of mobility. He picks and chooses when he wants to kind of run. Sometimes was doing what Kane was doing for England, where he'll drop off, ping a ball, and just admire his pass, and then you see him strolling into the box, which you can't have at a big club. So, and I think that's the reason why Thomas Frank kind of benched him, because with you get a lot more movement, a lot more energy, a lot more robustness in the forward areas than you do with Tony. And I think Thomas Frank started to say, oh, that's a bit to our detriment, especially when it looks like they won a relegation battle.
Who do you think? Because I don't know if you agree, but who would you think needs to come in as the striker for Arsenal?
Okay, so I think so before I start, I think that my biggest issue with Arsenal is this, right? And it's even last season, is that you have priority, as you said, priority positions. And for me, buying another defender was the lowest of our priorities, if I'm being brutally honest. For me, first, as you said, we needed a striker, first and foremost. We needed another winger, an actual winger who can actually drive the ball and actually run past players, and with a bit of more trickery and dribbling, more trickery and dribbling than what we have. Flair than what we have with Saka and Martinelli. Those were the two important positions. Then I would have gone for another central midfielder, but not in the holding position next to Rice. I would have gone for someone who can be kind of a replacement for Odegaard. And the reason why I say that is because when Odegaard is off the boil, there's no replacement for him. There's no one who we can bring on to kind of impact the game when Odegaard isn't performing. So you see when he comes off, no one is. Arteta doesn't trust him. So that's the issue. So that's the issue. So I would have said those would have been my 3 key positions I would have looked at, just because, like I said, if Odegaard isn't performing, there's no one else that can come on. And kind of look to create things for Arsenal. And secondly, Odegaard, for me, sometimes he lacks the decisiveness that Kevin De Bruyne has. Kevin De Bruyne sometimes, if the shot is on, takes the shot. Kevin De Bruyne, if the pass is on, plays that pass quickly. Odegaard sometimes feels like everything has to be perfect before I do something. So if he needs to shoot, my body needs to be positioned perfectly and the opening needs to be there perfectly for me to shoot. Sometimes hold on to the ball too long, doesn't want to make the pass, feels like, it needs to be perfect before I make the pass, which is why I think sometimes we need someone more decisive. From a striking position, honestly, I'll just throw 100 million to Newcastle, test the result for Isak. I think he'll be a perfect signing for Arsenal. And not just Arsenal, I think it'll be a perfect signing for a number of clubs, leaning towards Chelsea, Liverpool, and obviously United got 2 strikers. I won't even include them anymore.
No, include us, man. What's that?
You already have 2 strikers. You're not needing the strikers the other club. Okay, United. But honestly, I think when you look at his own, obviously fitness sometimes is something to be of a concern sometimes with the injuries. But when you look at his overall game and the quality of his finishing, he's the type of striker you go for because he's shown it.
That's a good shout.
I would test Newcastle result. Say, listen, opening bid, 80 million plus 20 million add-ons. Let's see what you're saying.
It's a very good shout, man. It's a very good shout. Kojo, you agreeing?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, Isak's the only kind of number 9 right now that gives me any sort of excitement when watching strikers, because something like good quality strikers are a dying breed, which is unfortunate. The man that everyone cosplays has almost forced like Wideman to be the goal scorers, despite the fact that he's always had a number 9 in his locker. I don't know why people have missed that trick, but so be it. But yeah, no, Isak would be perfect. I mean, the thing about Isak is he knows how to be an old school striker and also a modern number 9. He has the movement to get in the right positions for the first time finishes and so on in the middle of the box. But he also is a player that can drift on the left, can drift on the right, can score different types of goals. Like Basil said earlier, his catalogue is not just one brand of goals. He's got 4, 5, 6 different types in his locker. So yeah, that'd be who I look at.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. To be fair, I don't know. I feel like Newcastle will try and hold on to him though. I just don't see them letting him go. I can't see them letting him go.
Newcastle, they're not selling him.
No, they're going to sell Gordon to Liverpool, aren't they? That's going to be their big. That's going to be their big sell this summer. I think will be Gordon goes to Liverpool. I haven't looked at their incoming and outgoings to transfers so far, but I can't. I think they would push for higher than 100 mil for him, which I think he's probably not even worth that. I'll be honest. I think 100 mil is probably 110 sufficient for it. But in modern day football, they want to add an extra 50 mil on top and do all sorts of nonsense. So
and even going to what you're saying, going to what you're saying, Theo, like especially where people forget the importance of a centre forward, because all you have to do is compare City to use Arsenal and Chelsea because they were the ones. You can even throw United even there, because when you look at City, there were times City didn't play well, but then pressure was alleviated because Haaland would get the goal sometimes out of nothing. I remember there was a game where City played Nottingham Forest. In the back of the season, Forest were dominating City, had all the chances, wasting all the chances, and I think Haaland got the goal. And and you need a striker who can just get you a goal out of nothing, can create a chance for himself, or put himself in a position where a chance can be created for him to put in the back of the net. And you kind of, and as Kojo said, you kind of have that wild card when you have a striker who can score goals and bail you out. And I look at Chelsea and Arsenal, and that's what they were missing. Arsenal, everything was predicated upon the team game. Everyone kind of purring and things coming on. But sometimes when you I've always said, when you kind of block Arsenal's midfielders from playing, the striker is redundant. Jesus does nothing. Havertz absolutely does nothing. So you don't have that. You don't have that weapon that can kind of get you a goal out of nothing, which is what Arsenal missing. And you kind of look at it with Chelsea too. Chelsea didn't have that. You had, I think Jackson played up front for you for most of the time.
Yeah. And
kind of when things weren't going in the midfield, you didn't have a striker that could put the ball in the back of the net and kind of alleviate that pressure for you, which is important. So then there's heavy reliance on everyone behind them, the wingers, the midfielders. And sometimes there's games where teams can kind of suss you out and block that opportunity, but you need your striker to be there on form. Same as United. United just had barely any outlet up front. And sometimes that made it very easy for teams to kind of play against United, because there wasn't that threat. They could take risks. The defenders can kind of push up a bit. The midfielders didn't have to worry about maybe, I might need to cover this danger, because there wasn't that outlet. And that for me is where Arsenal was kind of a missing piece for Arsenal. Because if I take, for example, the 2 Bayern games, our strikers were non-existent in both legs.
Yeah.
And Bayern marked out our midfielders, even Porto, even people forget the Porto game. When Porto pressed our midfielders out of the game, we didn't have an outlet up front. And you can see in those key games we were missing that. And that's the reason why I'm kind of disappointed now that Arsenal haven't bought a striker. We haven't been linked to any striker, because there's no point buying more midfielders and defenders, because we're going to have the same problem we had next season in the upcoming season.
But can I ask you a question? Sorry, can I ask you a question? Because something just clicked to me. Yeah. So obviously earlier you were talking about Odegaard and him being like your main creative outlet, but obviously indecisive at times. But what kind of alerted me was, it sounds like you guys kind of lack more creativity coming from the midfield. So
yeah, we do.
Is that a case of you need to sign maybe another creative midfielder to maybe play? For example, I think Martinelli's at risk personally. I'd rather sign someone on that left side that's also a bit more creative rather than just direct. And then another striker, because then if you do get another striker, but you have only Odegaard as the main outlet, whereas Saka, who can create at times but likes to be a lot more direct and go for goal. Martinelli likes to go for goal. Trossard likes to drift inside and get into the middle and try to go for goal. Would that not be the same issue, kind of like how United have, where when Bruno's not there, we have nobody? So no matter how many runs Højlund was making, it meant nothing. He couldn't get onto anything because nothing was being fed through to him.
To a degree, yes, and to a degree, no. To a degree, I'll say no because with Havertz, he's a very static player in terms of he doesn't make runs in behind. That's one thing you'll get with Havertz. He's very static in terms of easy as a defender. It's a defender's dream. Easy to defend because he's in front of you. So all you have to do is position yourself. So that's why his whole game is bringing other players in, so other players can run off him. Jesus is rarely there in the right moments. So if you have a striker who can make those runs in behind, who's a bit more dynamic, then it isn't as much as a problem because then we can play balls in behind in the defense. The only times we actually do that is when we're transitioning for a counter attack. For Arsenal's overall game, we don't really have a striker who runs in behind of the defenders, which is where in some games we struggled. Villa, I've mentioned the 2 Bayern games. Villa was another game we struggled because crosses were coming in, they can head it out. The striker, Havertz is static. All this 2 centre backs to do is just stay on him. They're not worried about anyone going in behind whatsoever. Same as like to the Bayern game. I mean, Dyer and I can't remember who played beside him in the game. They're not the quickest. And even when you watch them in the Bundesliga, they always get caught with runners in behind them. But because Arsenal didn't have runners, easy to defend. So in a way, no, it isn't the same issue. But in a way, yes, you are right that it can be an issue if that isn't addressed because Odegaard really and truly is our only creative outlet in that type of sense. Obviously, you get some creativity from Saka to a degree, but Odegaard is one where everything comes through him.
It's interesting. It's an interesting thought, and when you think about it, Odegaard is the one where everything kind of comes through him. And when he's not, like you said, when he's not on his game, then you do see that massive void in that midfield. But going back to the striker, I would have liked to have seen Benjamin Sesko come to Arsenal as well. I think he would have been, for me, a good player. I know he stunk out the Euros, but I think he's. Go on, Basil.
I watched him a bit throughout the season. He's a risk because ultimately, if you watch him, he's not clinical. He misses, even though he scored quite a bit of goals for Leipzig, he misses a lot of glaring
but he's
chances.
in the right spaces though. He's in the right spaces to take the chances. So I think
I give you that. Yeah. So you're right. So in fairness, I wasn't too sold on income task because I thought it's a risk in terms of you're bringing a youngster and you're having to. You can't. It's kind of like Liverpool Nunez, where you kind of see he has the attributes, but you're waiting for it to kind of come together. And then for me, when I thought about Sesko, I'm thinking, do we have the time to bring in? I know he's only 21, but then kind of develop him and wait for it to all come together. And that was kind of an offense. But yeah,
I think you. From going back to what you said before earlier about Arteta, sort of the board are willing to stick by him and they're willing to, you could see him there for another 10 years or so. I think they would give him the time, and I think Arteta potentially would be able to get something out of him. I'm not saying he's a bad striker either. I think I watched him as well. I know he stinks out the place, but I say the same about Osimhen, and everyone raves about him. Do you know what I mean? I think he misses plenty of chances. Rafael Leao, people talk to me about how he's a brilliant player, and I don't see the brilliance in him. But
Rafael Leao would, lack of a better word, piss off so many people in this league.
Listen, I agree with you on both statements. I agree with you on both statements here. But go on, Kojo.
Because this is, what you're saying is correct. The thing is, so when you're talking about Sesko, the one that comes to mind is Cavani. I'm not saying he's got the movement of Cavani, but Cavani's missed so many chances, and he's one of those players that will score 35, 40. You're like, my guy, you should be scoring about 70 because you're missing so many other chances. But players like Rafael Leao, yes, they have their moments, but he can be just as frustrating as like Rashford. You can have 5-6 games in a row where you're like, this guy is not. He's not it.
Every time I watch him, he pulls out a stinker, and I don't know if it's just because I'm watching or whatever. But when I see clips online, and I'm thinking that ain't the same guy I've just watched.
Just
the thing about Rafael, I've always said this, which is that,
Sorry. I was going to say, just like for Portugal,
go, Kojo.
AC Milan, he has 45 minutes. Believe me, he has 45 minutes, and he does nothing else after that. It's not good. It's not good. These players shouldn't be adored. We should be adoring the consistent players, guys that can give you a solid 7 for 90 minutes of the game. Because if you're going to sign someone like Leao, yes, he'll get you an outlet for sure and give you some output for sure. But are you signing him because you think he's going to be a game changer for you? Or do you think it's because, like, I hate what wingers like him go to City and do, where they sort of not lose their ability to take on players, but they're a lot more just cautious and look for the pass and all that, because that's the direction, that's the system, that's the way you must play. But because you buy into the system so much, it works for you at the end of the day. Leao doesn't seem like a player that buys into the system. He's got freedom at AC Milan. He's got freedom. He loves that freedom at AC Milan. Bring it to us, take him to City and see what player he becomes. He ain't going to be the same guy.
He become Doku, basically.
He become Doku, he become Grealish.
I agree.
He's going to be the player that takes some players.
Go on, Basil.
I agree with you. The issue you have with Leao is that he's inconsistent. I've watched him too many times, and it frustrates me because I remember I watched it was one of the American channels. I forgot which one it was, and one guy was saying that Rafa Leao is world class. He's definitely world class. I'm like, no. The issue you have is that, as Kojo said, he's a moments player. So what people will do is they'll show you the one clip he did in a game, which looks like brilliance, but then we'll forget, the 6-7 games before that where he's in front of. It's hard to describe him, because really and truly, if you look at his overall career, you can call him average based on what he's done. The issue he has is that he has ability, where you say, he has ability which doesn't make him average, but his performances are average. It's unbelievable. So like I said, he's another option where, as you said, as Coach said, you bring him to the Premier League, he will frustrate you. Because you'll see the brilliant, like Rashford, you see moments of brilliance, but then you see periods of of just average
nonsense
performances.
just before we wrap up as well,
and that's the reason why he hasn't been a regular starter for Portugal for the last number of years.
Yeah, no, so it's a fact. Emil Smith Rowe, obviously, I don't know if it's been confirmed that he's moving now to Fulham, but it's literally on the cards. It's 99% done. Big loss for Arsenal, Basil, or do you reckon that's an injury-prone player that just had too many injuries, and the chance for him to shine at Arsenal's filtered away?
I wouldn't even say injury prone. I'll say definitely needed to be sold. Got decent money from him. I think I'll blame the manager more than anything. I don't even think it's the injury. The manager, I don't know what happened, because the sad thing is he was part of that number of players that actually, in a way, alleviated the pressure from Arteta. Some people say even saved his job when he was going through a bad period, when him and Saka were kind of were the young players that were performing when some of the experienced players weren't performing. The issue is that Arteta just hasn't had any. I don't know I think something's gone on between him and the manager, 100%. Because when you look at some of the games, the number of games he hasn't played, where he is available, it doesn't make sense. Even sometimes Arteta brings him off like the last 20 seconds. Sometimes he's an unused subs, and honestly, it's ridiculous. Sometimes he's an unused sub. They look at some of the substitutes that came on before him, and it doesn't make sense. So I think something's happened between him and the manager, because he's barely had any game time, even when he's fit. Obviously, he's had his injury problems, but when he has been fit, Arteta just hasn't considered him whatsoever. Even from a rotational perspective, where we're playing certain teams and he's rotated the team, Emil Smith Rowe hasn't had a look in whatsoever. So I think, in a sense, he's had to go just because I don't think the manager trusts him. And I feel if the manager's not going to use you, might as well sell him and actually make some money and reinvest that money into someone else of the squad. So I know there's a lot of Arsenal fans who are like seem sad that he's going. I don't know what they're sad about, because he's not someone who has contributed a lot to the club for anyone to be sad about anything, to be honest. I don't know why. Like, people are going on like his Thierry of Vieira. Like, it's a big loss, we're losing him. I'm like, mate, you needed to go. You needed to go. It wasn't being used, so actually sell him and reinvest and spend that money on someone else who you're going to use. So good business in my opinion, to be honest. Which is surprising for Arsenal, because we sell horribly.
Well, so I can't remember how much of the is it 27 million?
Roughly 27 million. It'll be 35 million altogether.
With
I think
add-ons
it's like
as well.
27 million plus add-ons that takes
The add-ons,
it to 35.
Yeah, so it's a good deal, and I think he could go to Fulham and obviously revive his career there, and he's still young, so he can
I
still.
think he'll thrive. I think he'll thrive at Fulham because Marco
Yeah,
Silva plays good football. He's got those players playing, and they have decent players. So they've got a
Yeah.
good brand of football and decent players. I think he'll absolutely thrive at Fulham.
Yeah, I agree. Kojo, what are you saying on Smith Rowe?
I never saw the magic him in the first place. So me personally, I don't know what they're looking
Wow.
for. Personally, I'm gonna be brutally honest. When I forgot when he came through to the first team properly and he was having a bit of a run, he was playing all right, and he got a nickname. What was it like?
He did. He did have a nickname.
It's like Islington Iniesta or something stupid.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Man, shut up. Listen. He's made it to the Premier League. He plays at a good level, but let's stop dreaming. He's not special. And that's, if I'm going to be very honest and very brutal, that's the reason why he's going to Fulham. I'll be very real. That's the reason why he's not playing with Declan Rice. He's playing with Andres Pereira. Believe me, he's not. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. It's the reason why they've re-signed Ryan Sessegnon, who did nothing at Tottenham. So look, he had a good run at Arsenal. It's his boyhood club. Probably that's why they're a bit emotional. It's a sad thing to see a boyhood club go, hey, listen, I was upset, but I was a little bit gutted for Welbeck when he left as well. But it is what it is. You got to move on, man. You got to move on. If these guys are going to help you move to a title, then so be it, man. Kick rocks and get the hell out.
Yeah, you can't get.
There's a number of players that need to join him too. We need to get rid of Nketiah. We need to get rid of Reece Nelson.
Whoa. Not your legendary number 14, man.
Get out of here.
Thierry 2.0. Get rid of him, man.
That fraud in that 14 show. We need to get rid of Nketiah. That's the one that honestly that baffles.
But he's going to Marseille. I think he's linked to Marseille.
Apparently. But I think we're asking too much. Like it's weird with Arsenal because Arsenal don't behave like a big club. Look at Ali when people like Chelsea sell players. At least these players have shown enough at the club for them to warrant some of the fees that Chelsea. There's enough. They've had enough game time where Chelsea can say, we command. We want to. We want to sell them for 30, 40 million. Maybe
apart from Lukaku, let's not bring him up. We'll talk about him in a few days' time.
But like I said, you guys have done that, and look at with other clubs, whether it's Liverpool, United. These guys have had enough game time where they can warrant the fee. Arsenal are very cheeky in terms of these guys barely kick a ball. And they'll be like, we want 20 million, 25 million for them. Well, Arteta's barely kicked a ball for you to even warrant more than, I think 17 million is more than a fair price for Nketiah. Same as Reece Nelson. I can only imagine how much we're going to ask for him. But Reece Nelson has barely kicked a ball in like 3-4 years at Arsenal for you to even say he's worth any fee to me, which is why we sell badly. When we stop using players, we absolutely stop using players. And that's the reason why we can't sell them. Because there's nothing for teams to go off to say, oh, this player can be of value to us. So I think if Marseille offer you 17 million, take the 17 million. Honestly, just take it. Stop haggling for money that you're just not going to get.
It's not just the fee, though. It's the wages as well. You can get them kind of wages off the books and you can go elsewhere, then it helps.
And Theo, that's the reason why we can't sell players. It's actually the biggest thing that we have is that for a long time, we've been giving players too much money. Like when clubs come in for them, they're like, oh, we can't match your wages.
100,000 a week.
Cedric was there on the books we were loaning because he was on 100k a week at Arsenal, which is insanity. And Nketiah's on like a reported 100k a week, which is insanity.
Hey man, the day you're paying Phil Jones 120k a week, that's when you talk to me, man. Don't come here with these, don't come here with these wages talk, man.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Well, that's why you guys couldn't get rid of Maguire, because when West Ham came for him, he's like, no chance am I going for a wage drop.
There's a lot of players we still can't get rid of now, man. Hey, we're in trouble. But it's what it is.
We're gonna get on to United. That's gonna be a good episode. I can't wait for that one. Give me your top 3 signings, Basil, for Arsenal that you need to bring in before the deadline day.
Okay, before the deadline day, we need at least a minimum, and this is me being generous, minimum two more signings. Personally, I would like more, but it's Arsenal, so I can't, there's no point wanting more from Arsenal because they always disappoint. We definitely need a striker, 100%. If we don't get a striker, I'm going to riot because that is just unacceptable. We need another striker. Obviously, if we sign Marino too, that's another thing. We need another striker, and we desperately need another winger. Honestly, we have problems with our wingers because, like I said, there's no trickery or flair. As much as I like Saka, Saka's a one-trick pony. He's always going to come in and cut in. Every time he cuts in on his left foot, rarely. I mean, on the odd occasion, may take the ball, may dribble on the outside against player, but his first thought is always to cut in. Martinelli has zero. Martinelli for me is a footballer without a brain. He doesn't know what he's doing with the ball. He runs it, honestly, runs like a headless chicken, runs it down the line without an idea as to what he's doing, and his end product is hands down the worst I've seen of any footballer. I say I do not know what Arsenal fans seen him when they say, "Oh, he's this, he's that." Honestly, one of the worst wingers I've ever laid eyes on. Honestly, he's terrible, absolutely terrible. So we definitely need one more winger. So the two players
sounds like you need two.
Listen, I can just about stop. I can just about, but that's me being greedy because I know Arsenal don't like to go in and sign more. So, but also we need definitely a striker and another winger. If we buy another striker and another winger with Mourinho incoming, then I think that's a very good transfer window for us.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. What are you saying, Kojo? Do you think more additions is needed on top of that?
Oh yeah. I still think they need a left back. Point blank period. I did this Calafiori experiment. I don't think it's gonna work.
I agree with you, Kojo. So obviously, I'm going to sit down and see whether this Calafiori business actually works. But
he might surprise you, man.
No, he is. He is really good technically, but okay. I'm just gonna I'll be very honest. I seen the last 10 years of football, looking at how players struggle from moving from one position to the other. That's not very far. I just worry. I say worry. I'm not an Arsenal fan, so screw that. But I just sort of I'm a bit wary and looking, saying, let's see if he can actually adapt to that position. If he does, great, because that's good for him. That'd be good for Basil. Basil can smile a bit more, so that'd be good. But if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be on this show saying, guys, go and buy another left back. I told you to go buy a left back. Left back, centre mid, Mourinho. That one kind of annoys me because I've been a fan of Mourinho for about 3 years now. I like him. I associate that he's really good, so that's annoying me. And I think if you play a midfield, if Arteta's not afraid, I would play a diamond, and you would force Saka to be not a number 9, but sort of like a 9 that drifts out wide, and you can allow Odegaard and Mourinho to do their thing on the other side. Mourinho's really good, so I'll play a diamond. Let Partey hold, and then Rice be sort of box to box because Rice doesn't like to hold anymore for some reason. And yeah, you definitely need a striker. And you already said everything I thought about Martinelli for the last year, so I'd have to even. I've stayed so quiet. I've stayed so quiet on Martinelli because on social media, last time I spoke about him was that day. I think it might have been the start of the season where he did some accidental skill. He didn't do it on purpose.
There was an accidental skill. And people going like, "Oh, look at the."
People were like, "Oh,
he didn't even mean it."
I was like, are you sure? And when I said, even the "Are you sure?" got me enough heat. So I said, you know what, let it ride. And then I saw the same people complaining about him 10 games later. So
you're here now. You're here to collect. You're here to collect.
I've said my 2 pieces. Yeah. Basil said it, so he better wake up this year, because if he doesn't wake up, we're going to be back here. You know what I'm saying? That's
people forget this. Like, back in the season, Arteta wasn't starting him because it was that bad. Especially when he came out of injury that bad. People forget this. We were signing Mudryk for a reason, to replace Martinelli.
Yeah.
People always forget that Mudryk was a replacement for Martinelli. He wasn't there to be a squad. He was like, considering how much Arsenal were going to spend, he was there to replace Martinelli.
Yeah.
So that already tells you that Arteta already sees the limitations in Martinelli already. That in their mind, we need someone for that left-hand side of midfield. For that left wing position at Arsenal. So obviously, when Arsenal fans go crazy over here, I'm like, well, even your manager himself understands that he's not as good as what you guys think he is.
To quote a very special Portuguese philosopher, I don't want to be in big trouble. I don't.
Listen, he's never wrong as well. Let's be honest, he's never wrong. He's very rarely wrong with Mr. Mourinho.
Sometimes it takes a while, but when he gets there, you're like, damn, he said it.
Yeah, he's not wrong many times. So, but last question for the two of you: where are Arsenal finishing this season? I'm gonna let Kojo go first as a non-Arsenal fan. I'm gonna give Basil time to have a little simmer down and think about this one. But Kojo, where are Arsenal finishing this season?
No, I'm applying the pressure first.
Listen, I'm taking notes of every episode we do, we're gonna have a final table of everyone. So make sure you pick your spots. You got United to come yet, Kojo? So you sure United aren't gonna be first?
Oh no, we're finishing 11th, man. It's all right, man. Don't worry.
So what you saying first?
Yeah, I'm saying for Arsenal. We're applying the pressure this year, man.
All right,
We're
okay,
applying
cool. All right, I reckon Arsenal will finish third this season.
Okay.
I think they'll finish third.
Do you know what, Theo? I was as bad. I know Arsenal fans will get on to me for this, to be honest, and say, you know, Ross, I genuinely think we could finish third.
No, I do. I think Liverpool will have a good season, and City.
I genuinely think, and the reason why I say that is because I think what was worrying. I was saying to Fiona, what was worrying is that Arteta doesn't have like a plan B. He has one style of play, and even he doesn't even adapt it during the game. And I've always said this: the biggest worry you have when you continue to play a system the same, which I think he's going to do, and obviously I've also seen in the preseason games it's still the same system. Teams suss you out and find ways to play against you, or find ways to nullify you because they, especially when you're doing it for like over 2 years, they've enough information for teams to prepare better. So I don't think we'll have games. I don't think we'll have games in the way that we did last season, where it'll be in our hands or where we'll be as dominant. Because I think teams will kind of have different ways to play against us. So that's why I think potentially we may finish third, because I can't see us adapting, and I think teams will find different ways to kind of work us out.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be tricky. So I'm going third. Basil's going third. Kojo applying pressure. Episode 1 already. First Arsenal. It's crazy, crazy. I can't wait to see where you think City and Liverpool are gonna finish, Kojo, because that's a bold statement for Arsenal to be first. But we'll save that. We'll save that for later.
All I'm going to say is I don't think Liverpool fans, in particular Damon, wants to find out where I think Liverpool are going to finish.
I don't think he does at all, to be honest.
He'll be definitely on that episode 100%. We're not recording that without him. He's going to be here. But listen, thank you everyone who's been listening or watching this. If you're listening on the audio version, then we appreciate it as always. If you're on YouTube, make sure you check out the audio version on your commutes to work, to wherever you're going. Don't forget to subscribe, like the videos, all of that stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with other football fans. And like I said at the very start of this, we'll be doing each club by club. So tonight is Arsenal. There's going to be all the other ones. Obviously, Chelsea will be in there. That's going to be a lovely episode for me to do. But if your club isn't Arsenal, then make sure you check out all the other stuff as well on Spotify, audio, and YouTube as well. Thank you very much for listening or watching. We're going to be back tomorrow. Well, I'm going to be back. I don't know about YouTube, but I'm going to be back tomorrow. So come and join me tomorrow to talk about Bournemouth, all things Bournemouth, man. So we're out. Thank you very much.